And the thing about music is that there are so many musicians, but it's also such a small world that you're going to see people again and again. You're going to see them 20 years later, and you know, and let's hope that you were kind when you first saw them, no matter what they said to you.
Warning. This episode contains adult language and adult humor.
Since when have trumpet players ever been considered adults?
If you are easily offended by these types of conversations, consider switching to the oboe. Welcome to the Trumpet Gurus Hang podcast. I'm your host, Jose Johnson. My guest for this episode is Kiku Collins. Kiku is an unstoppable force of nature and has made her unique mark in the entertainment industry. She's toured the world with legendary performers like Beyonce and Gloria Gaynor, performed twice at the White House, and is as equally at home playing hot jazz as she is throwing down the funk. Kiku is also a passionate advocate for those affected by cancer, lymphedema, and autism, and is without a doubt the one and only Ninja Princess. So, pour yourself a big glass, pull up a chair, and let the hang begin. Welcome to this week's episode of the Trumpet Gurus Hang, and I am joined by the fabulous Kiku Collins, who is also known, of course, as the Ninja Princess. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you better ask somebody. So, Kiku, how's it going?
Doing okay. How are you?
Oh, I'm just living the dream here.
Yeah, right. Aren't we all?
Yeah. Well, at least it is. Today was a slightly warmer day, so I think almost all the snow has melted here on the East Coast. So that's a positive.
Yeah, loving that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in New York these days, correct?
Yep. Yeah, I've been here for a long time.
Well, it's a happening place,
I love it. I love it. I travel the world. Well, I haven't in the past year for some reason, but I normally travel the world, and this is my favorite place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the longest time, I kind of I was jonesing to move to New York, so it's like New York, San Diego, or Vancouver, or Hong Kong. Those were my go-to places. But here I am in central Pennsylvania, and home is where you are, So
Right.
Yeah, it's all where you make it. So let's just let people get to know a little bit about you. So how long have you been in the New York area?
Long time.
We don't want to admit
see.
anything.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been here my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here for college, and that was it.
Okay. Where were you born at?
In New Jersey. Not
Jersey.
far, but
Okay, well,
honestly, in the woods.
Okay.
Like in the woods, Jersey, and nobody's heard of my town, and that's fine because,
Yeah.
why would you?
Well, and Jersey's such an interesting state because there's parts of Jersey that, like the Newark and, Camden areas that are just basically not much to speak of.
Yeah.
But then there's some really nice kind of quiet, out of the way places, and it's like you are in the middle of nowhere. You are kind of out in what beautiful scenery in some areas, and then you get to Bayonne, and you're like, what?
So where I grew up, it was very quiet, but it wasn't nice. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
We were very, very, very poor. And the only reason we could afford a house at all was because of this weird little town that we moved to. And there was a power plant in the backyard, and our house blew up a couple times. And we had holes in the walls. There were bats that would occasionally just fly through the house because they were tired of being in the attic the whole time. You could hear critters in the walls. It was, yeah.
Well, yeah. So you're.
I could not wait to leave.
Yeah.
I couldn't, and I knew when I was little that I wanted to live in New York.
Awesome. So what got you started in music?
Well, we were required to play an instrument in the 4th grade, and we had a trumpet because my brother was playing trumpet. So I was, doing gymnastics and I was trying to be a typical girl, but because we were so broke, I grew up in hand-me-downs, and a lot of those hand-me-downs were my brother's husky-sized, tough skins.
Oh,
See,
yeah.
now I'm aging myself
Yep.
because that's a whole different era.
Yep.
But yeah, they were like cardboard.
Mm-hmm.
That lasted forever, unfortunately, because I ended up in ill-fitting boys' pants. And so, I tried to be as girly as I could be. And then, of course, in the fourth grade, it was very strange. And I've told this story so many times over the pandemic for some reason. I guess a lot of people are doing interviews now because we don't have gigs. But so they gave us a written test, our first day of band. And so you had to show how much knowledge you had about music. And I was a terrible piano player, and I hated my teacher. It was a whole scene. But I was, singing, and I was actually playing in the church bell choir. I was quite proficient with like 6 bells. I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
I don't know how I got mixed up in all that, but I could read music, and, having my brother already playing the trumpet for 2 years, I basically aced this weird little test. I would love to see a copy of it if anybody has it. But I aced the test, and so I got to pick, and I think I was first. I don't know. And so, I said, well, trumpet. And the band director actually said, well, but wouldn't you want to play like a flute or a clarinet? Because you're a girl. And I said, well, we have a trumpet. It's right there. And of course, my brother was playing in the band, and he was like, oh, okay. So they were stuck with me on trumpet.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I wanted to really play it. I think it was just one of those things. Well, I have to pick something. So, I'll play it for as long as they need me to play it. And it just, I don't know, it fit. Or I made it fit, I guess.
It stuck. It stuck.
I think I was hooked when I realized, that I had been watching my brother play for so long. And so I knew fingerings just automatically, just from watching him. And I understood a bit about what the embouchure should look like. And and of course I would kind of goof around with it sometimes. So the fact that it felt like an easier ride for me than a lot of the other kids, not because I hate the word talent, so I'm not going to use it. But I put in hours before realizing I was doing that work.
Right.
And so it's like I had been playing for a while already.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times people miss out on the fact that your environment, the things that you're exposed to, even on a subconscious level, they stick, especially at a younger age. You're absorbing things that you weren't really looking to absorb, and that works to your advantage and it works to your disadvantage.
Yep.
So I think that's why it's so important. I think like the ideas of immersion are so crucial, whether it be in things like music, even societally, immersing yourself in different cultures, being exposed to different ways of doing things, different beliefs. I think that's so important, because if we can do that with kids at a younger age, then they're going to be so much more open and receptive to things that are different from what they see in their regular day-to-day lives.
Yeah, and that's the really nice thing about raising a child in New York City. I remember there was one day where I realized that my daughter thought that it was weird that I wasn't gay. That's the ultimate, thumbs up for me as a parent in New York, was that I had exposed her to so many people and so many different lifestyles, and, that, oh, well, that's weird. Oh, okay, cool. So
Yeah.
there was a lot to be said for that. And, she's 19 now, so she's got such a great vision of the world just from growing up here.
Right. Well, that's really amazing. And that's, kudos to you for doing that for your child. And speaking of which, like, kind of these ideas of like standards and what's deemed to be normal, abnormal, and all those sort of things. Being a female trumpet player, there had to be, and there probably still are, some difficulties that you had to face, because it's not looked at as being a particularly feminine thing to do, especially in the world of like commercial music. So, I mean, how did you navigate that, and maintain your sanity and not like, have somebody buried in a swamp in New Jersey? Although you might have somebody buried in a swamp in New Jersey. I'm not saying that
Right.
that didn't happen, but
That's a different podcast.
yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I hope you under a pseudonym. So it's kind of funny because, I was a classical player growing up and I think a lot of it was because I was encouraged as a woman, as a girl at the time, to utilize a pretty sound to, oh, well, your brother plays jazz because he's a boy and he's a lead player because he's a boy and blah, 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 and you're a girl. And I did do really well in the classical world and I enjoyed it. But I always, felt like I was shut out of the jazz world. And I mean, when I went to Interlochen in Michigan for my senior year, I felt like some barriers were broken down because there was such a mix of people there. But it was still weird because I still felt very alone in that world.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, when I started dabbling in more of a commercial vibe, it's more acceptable to be a woman because they don't have a lot of expectations of what a trumpet player looks like. They're excited if you can sing backup and if you can dance, and if you're not opposed to some glitter, which I know plenty of guys that are really cool with that too.
Yeah, but not very many.
Yeah, but also just the if you bring your A game as far as what you've been trained to do on the instrument, and then you add that vibe of yeah, I can dance in 6-inch heels, and I'd love to sing some harmonies behind you, and it's a different world. There's not as much masculinity attached to it in the commercial and the pop world and the disco world I've been really immersed in for years now, and in R&B, but you still see it a lot in classical and jazz.
Yeah.
So I love that I landed on this planet because I didn't think that. I never thought, and I listened to a lot of horn bands growing up and stuff, but I never imagined that it would be this open and that I would find a place in it.
Yeah.
So it's exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot to be said for that. And, it's always amazed me that anyone who's a musician, especially an accomplished musician, can't dance. I just find that like so
there are
mind-blowing.
A lot of musicians that are very, very scared of it. And I was too, because I did a lot of recording for years in New York, like for commercials and whatever, TV stuff and film junk. And so I was in a booth like I am now. And that was my career for years. And I liked not being looked at, and I liked not having to do anything other than play the part. So I was like a deer in the headlights the first time I had to do anything, and that it was for the BET Awards. So all of a sudden, I came out of my little recording pods across town, and I'm on this huge stage, and there's cameras everywhere, and they're spraying all this stuff in my hair, and then they're saying, "Oh, by the way, there's going to be pyrotechnics." So, I'm going, isn't that like not good to be spraying anyway? Yeah. So yeah, a lot of that happened, but I also had to learn how to dance and play at the same time, and it was so scary. Yeah. I was so scared. I did not know how to do it. I'm in my hotel room. We're in LA, and I'm like, we've got these long rehearsals every day. And then I go to my hotel room. I'm exhausted, but I get there. I'm going, I'm going to make a fool out of myself if I don't figure this out on my own time. And so I'd be up all night, like trying to figure out, well, how do I, put my mute in? I'm like, I have like ground beef for lips all of a sudden because I've been playing all the time. But like, I got to figure out how to move, and very simple moves, but it was hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, over the years, after doing this for so many years, it's hard for me to sit still sometimes. I play these church gigs and I'm like, I want to get up and dance. This is like a great tune, but
Right.
so it is hard though.
Yeah, I mean it's and I guess for me what it is more so than like, whether you've got the serious moves or not, but it's wow, you can't even find one, just being able to physically feel, and I guess maybe it has to do with, I know for me, music was always kind of playing an instrument was something that created a barrier for me between myself and the audience. If I had the bell between me and them, so that was my safety zone, and there was that level of insecurity. So being able to feel much more free and be able to move and not feel like, it's like, I want you to hear me, but I don't want you to focus on me, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, feeling like if you're moving too much, you become the center of attention, and nobody wants that because then they're going to hear all the notes that you crack. So.
Yes. Oh, I crack plenty when I'm moving.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It is. It absolutely is.
I literally have to practice things moving.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting now because so much of popular music, particularly, I mean, and if you're lucky enough to be performing at the level that you are, obviously, that the visual aspect of it is just as vital as the musical aspect, and so you have to be able to look like you belong on stage.
Yes, actually, I have a hilarious, pretty short story about that, and I was not there, but I have eyewitness accounts. I was booked to go to Mexico to play a show, and then they moved the date, which clashed with a TV thing that I was doing. So I couldn't sub out the TV thing. That was silly. So it was too late to get a work visa for somebody else from the States. But they're saying, well, we're going to be in Mexico. Doesn't everyone play trumpet in Mexico? So they called the promoter, and the promoter knew, like, they changed the date on us and said, oh, yeah, we'll get you a guy. Don't worry about it. So long story short, especially since I wasn't there, but boy, I was told some very long stories about this. When I kept asking, so how did the guy do? How did my sub do? And they said, he had the best time. I don't think he's ever had that much fun in his life. I don't think he's ever played a solo ever in his life. I don't think that he's ever played in a crowd that big. I said, okay, so how did it go? And nobody's really telling me. They're saying he was so nice.
Uh-huh.
So then I'm meeting the sax player. He's from LA. He goes, man, I'm so happy to finally meet you because, I was looking forward to this. And my friend Harry talks about you, blah, blah, blah. I said, listen, tell me how this guy did, because I'm going nuts asking people because I really want to know. I want to know how it went. And he said, let's just put it this way. I'm so excited to hear the trumpet parts. But he took it so seriously to learn the dance moves.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up there having a great time doing all these crazy moves, but barely played.
Well, yeah, you blame it on the sound man on that one.
Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, I must not have been plugged in.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just thought it's so interesting because for what we do, we've had subs come into the horn section and they don't move. And that's something that's always told to them. Like, there are actual moves and the other horn players are going to be really good about it. They always put me in the center, so I'm really good about, like, whispering cues. Because, of course, I know the book inside and out. So I'm like, listen, okay, this is where that weird thing, okay, box step, and whatever. And I'll even turn their pages for them, like on an iPad. I'll just, okay, I got your page, do this. But we've had phenomenal, usually sax players, sound great, but they don't move, and we never see them again because they didn't move. I'm like, just do a step touch. We'll just do a step touch for today if you're really nervous about this. And they just stand there and they play, and it's like, oh no. I really like this guy. Not going to see him ever again.
Yeah. I really think like in terms of like the education scene, in terms of the practical things that you're taught if you're going to be a music performer, performance major, you
Yep.
should learn things like choreography.
Oh my gosh,
You
yes.
should have to take a class in just basic fashion design, like how to put together an ensemble.
Right. Especially as a woman, but men too, because I've
Oh,
seen men rip
man.
their pants on stage. It's like you have to audition your outfit before you get on that stage.
Yeah,
You do. You
they're,
have to audition your shoes. I don't care if they're sneakers.
mhm.
You have to try them out. You have to run through the show like that.
Yeah. And I mean, those are the things that you don't learn until you're out there and you're ripping your pants or sliding all over the place in your shoes or
Yes,
things like
yes,
that.
absolutely. It's essential, but I think that music education is so ingrained in what was always taught.
Hmm.
And so they assume, well, this works. It's like, well, right, but meanwhile, I was on a TV show and this poor girl, her shoe broke halfway through this, and it's live TV. We can't get her a new shoe and start again, but luckily she figured it out. It was an outdoor concert of all things. So, two of us she put her arms around us and she hopped back, from the stage with us, but she made it through the gig.
Yeah.
And actually during the same gig, I almost fell over backwards doing a move because the stage was slippery. I was like, wow, okay.
Oh
Luckily
my gosh.
the camera
Yeah.
wasn't on me.
Yeah. Well, those are always the scary times. It's like, I hope nobody saw that one.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, there's just so many little things that like the survival of the gig, and it's things like that. It's like being prepared for, what do you do when you're, if your third valve gets stuck? What do all these little things that people don't think about until it happens to them. And then, you develop a method, but it's something that you rarely hear talked about. Like if you go to a master class, you rarely are going to hear someone say, okay, well, here are the 10 things that you should carry in your gig bag.
Right.
Here are the things that you should do to prep for a gig. So other than, just like the typical, you need to learn your audition pieces. So,
Right. It's like, yeah, we all know that.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Tell me something I don't know.
Right. Walk around in the shoes for 10 blocks and come home and see how your feet feel.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know?
Well, I mean, it's even like when you're testing out equipment, we, a lot of times you have people that'll pick up a horn or a mouthpiece or whatever, and they'll just, blow really hard for 5 minutes and then go, okay, this is great. This is perfect. And I want it. Like, no, is this
Yeah.
are you going to be able to play for a 2-hour set or a 3-hour set? Are you going to be able to do this consistently and not kill yourself? So,
Right. That's like going to NAMM or ITG and, people are just playing as high and as loud as they can. Oh man, this is a great horn. Like, you know nothing about this horn.
mhm.
You need to figure out a way to try it in a way where you can actually measure whether or not it's right for you.
Yeah. Yep.
And, I mean, I guess it's an ego game. I've never understood it, but, and then you hear the same passages over and over by every single person that goes by. Oh my God. I'm like, really?
Yeah, I've worked quite a few of those shows, and I miss the hang. I don't miss the madness of it.
Yeah.
I like I don't know how many times I can, because okay, it's a legit guy's going to play this excerpt, a jazz guy's going to play this lick, and the lead guy is going to see how many double C's he can hit.
Right. It's complete insanity.
Yeah,
It's complete
but
insanity.
it's the fun part to me for that is also just the people watching, and the
It's
observations
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah, you get really good earplugs and just observe people.
Oh my God,
really
trumpet
fun.
players, weird group of people,
Yeah.
and I'm one of the weird ones. So it's
Oh
really
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's
I'm in the tribe.
yeah,
I'm there.
absolutely. So you have for if people don't know you well enough, you've got quite the resume. In terms of your recording, you've done tons of sessions, and like you were saying, television, film. You've done some Broadway. You were actually didn't you have a couple of acting roles off Broadway?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you've been in some cool commercials, and you're everywhere. You're a multifaceted ninja
Yes.
princess,
Listen, I wish I was now.
and you can repair refrigerators. I understand
That's
too.
right.
So
And microwaves.
and microwaves. So you got it all going on. So how did you get involved in like doing acting?
So, I mean, all right. So I dabbled in modeling when I first came to New York. I don't even know why it came up, but someone approached me. See, this is the Alzheimer's kicking in now. It's been a long time, but someone approached me. And the thing is, I'm not that tall. And, the minimum was like 5'9". And I used to lie and say I was 5'7". So, but because I'm half Asian, it worked out okay. Because, my mother, I don't think she was even 5 feet tall. So I was very tall for someone who looks Asian enough to be, passing as Asian.
Right.
And so I don't know, I just fell into it. And I never did anything really big. Like you didn't see me in any huge commercials, but I did a lot of modeling for Paul Mitchell, the hair stylist. I did runway for them, which was insane. But I learned how to wear heels really well because I was the shortest one on the runway. I did some videos for them. I did do some print work. I wish I had copies of it, but I just, that was before we were digital,
Right.
really. And then I got cast in some commercials when I was younger. One of them was for VH1. This is like the birth of cable, basically. And it's hilarious because my hair is like here. I look like I have this baby face, and and all these people are dancing and just being stupid. And then there's me, and I just did this. I did it, nailed it. And
Okay.
yeah, crazy stuff. And then I did a lot of little jobs, but then I was a personal trainer years later at New York Sports Club, and they were shooting a commercial. And so the guys, shooting it came up to me and they were like, "Oh, I hear you work here. Can you be in this commercial for us?" Sure. Okay. So meanwhile, I had shin splints from being stupid and working out too hard and thinking I was invincible. And one of the shots they were shooting me all day, and one of the shots was running on a treadmill on my shin splints.
Oh.
So I really sold that. My face was like on. I was like, ow, so good, but I was really in pain. But, and so I kind of, the weird thing about getting cast in my first off-Broadway play was I was playing in this very strange group. And the lead guy, very funny, very odd, probably a little insane, and he would agree with me. And maybe I'll send him a message later. I'll say, "By the way, I called you insane." He'll be like, "Of course you did." Hilarious and very dry. So this whole band, we would play at 1 a.m. at the living room in New York. So my job was to play the trumpet and to also be very serious. So I wasn't allowed to laugh when he popped water balloons in his pants and the water went everywhere. He would play like a nose flute. I mean, just like completely insane things. And the entire place is just busting up, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just giving him this look, like, "Oh my God, can we just play the next tune?" I don't know how I did it, honestly. But I did. I kind of embraced that weird little role because it was a fun band to play in, and I got to wear really crazy outfits. And so one night, someone comes up to me and he says, "Hey, I'm directing a play, and I would love for you to audition for a part." I said, "So you mean for like the band?" He said, No, look, acting. You act." Like, "No, I don't." He goes, "Oh yeah, I've seen you quite a few times, and you
Yeah.
hold that face And when you speak, you're clear and blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right, whatever. So give my card. I'm like, I'll never hear from this guy again. He is harassing me, like calling me and emailing me. I was like, dude, all right. So I wrote him back. Finally, I said, listen, if it gets you off my back, I'm not an actress. I will come down and read for your part, and that'll be the end. And we will wish each other well. So I went down and I got the part.
So much for that.
So that was the beginning. I think it helped that I had a gymnastic background, because in the first play ever that I did, we were hanging from the ceiling. And so there were some acrobatics required. I also wore 7-inch heels, I believe. I started on the floor and I was playing a pocket trumpet. And then I tossed my pocket trumpet into a heavily padded garbage can, like an Oscar the Grouch garbage can.
Right.
And I'm wearing this house coat. It's made of surgical rubber. Listen, I've done the weirdest things in my life. And so I'm taking off this house coat and I've got all these things, strapped around me, and then I'm singing. And then these two people come down on this line and they hook into me, and I'm still singing. And every once in a while I go, because it would jerk too fast, but they would pull me up into this cloth bag that all the actors except for 2 would reside in for the entire show, and we would drop in and out for our scenes. It was
Okay.
I mean, you can't make this up, right?
Yeah.
Like this was a real thing. And it ran for months.
So every night, or what, like 5 shows a week or 6 shows a week? Or?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And I know that after it finished, I was so bruised up for months. I mean, I looked like I had been beaten. But it was such a weird experience.
Yeah.
And it did a lot for me, I think, as a performer, because I definitely got over some of my weirdness, about being on stage and being in a very vulnerable position. Like I'm hanging from the ceiling right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a really, I think, an important thing to talk about a little bit is getting over some of the weirdness about being on stage. I know for me, that was always a big thing. I always had this issue with stage fright, and I was talking about it earlier, like being able to hide behind the bell or hide behind my glasses or things like that. But I know for a lot of people, the bigger the bigger the stage, the more pressure they feel on themselves, and the harder it becomes for them to do their job. So you have played on some pretty stinking big stages. So how have you dealt with that? I mean, is it something that you always felt comfortable with, or was it something that you had to learn coping mechanisms to be able to be on those platforms?
So, funny thing, I would rather not pay. I'd rather play for, 20,000 people than 2.
Yeah.
There's something about those huge stages. You can't see anybody's face. You can't see if they're going, ooh, she missed a note. You know what I mean? So you create your story. You walk out on that stage and you see lights. You see nothing. You might see shadows of people. You might not. A lot of times I can't even, it's just, there's nothing out there. And then I hear them. And sometimes the spotlights will catch some people left and right and whatever. But it's never something where I can say, oh, yeah, there's so-and-so. I have no idea who's out there. So I create my own little story. We've actually played games like that when I've gigged with my husband, okay, find the disgruntled chemist. We'll play games. If it's a smaller crowd, we could see people's faces.
Right.
But, when you're looking out in this blob, that those people are or you hope anyway, that those people are so excited to be there and they just want to have a great time. And so, because you cannot see an individual face, just imagine that they're all so excited and everything you do has just made their day a little bit better. Because that's why people go to a concert. I mean, they could just, put in, well, I guess people don't use CDs anymore. But, they put on their 8-track and then they're
exactly.
like,
Yeah.
but, so I love it. I love a big crowd. I get nervous if it's a small crowd.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Your story.
And I agree with you on that. I would much rather play for a large audience than a small audience.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely no place to hide with that. But
Yep.
and also you've got all the years of experience with your acting, your being in all of the studio sessions and things like that. So you've had this very wide, diverse career, and where do you feel the most comfortable? Is it live? Is it studio? Is it television? Where does Kiku find her best groove?
Well, I mean, studio is fun. I was actually just recording earlier. Like I think I stopped 10 minutes before we started talking. But studio, it's funny because that's where I first started feeling really comfortable with being a musician. And now I love it, but I hear all of my mistakes. And people are such perfectionists now. Everyone's like micro editing everything. And that's a little bit weird to me. But I still enjoy it. And I love the fact that we can do it here. Thank goodness during a pandemic, right? But I feel like I'm comfortable anywhere you throw me, except those small rooms.
Yeah.
Those I got a little bit of a weirdness with. I'll still do it in a heartbeat. Before the world shut down, I would do all these, play in these huge stages, and I'd be recording, and I'd be doing TV shows, and then once a month I would play in a little hotel in New York with the two of my friends, and it definitely was not for the money, but it was for the three of us to have fun and play tunes, and it was such a great experience for me because it tapped into all of my vulnerabilities.
Mm.
So, yeah, I mean, it's so hard to explain to people who haven't done the big stages, and where that's what they know, that's what they do, and it's amazing to me that people do those gigs and they're not fazed by it, because I'm like, oh my God, all these people in the lobby of this hotel just heard me and I messed up.
Yeah, and they're looking at you and going, oh my God, I can't believe you're standing up there in front of,
Right. It's hilarious.
tens of thousands of people, and
yeah, it's there are different mindsets to musicians, I guess, and I mean, and as time went on, I got much more comfortable with it. But it is ironic that was, the most uncomfortable position for me.
Yeah. Well, we all process things differently. So, with your touring with Beyonce, how many years did you spend with her and her band?
I did 1 year.
Okay.
And my daughter was very, very young, and it was too much for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was way too much for me, and it was a lot for her. I was really lucky that first year because I wouldn't have taken the gig if it weren't for the fact that we were rehearsing down the street from my apartment. I didn't realize, though, how long those rehearsals would be. So, I basically had to hire someone to pick her up from school and, walk her home and do homework with her. And a lot of times she would be in bed before I got home from down the street.
Mm-hmm.
And then some mornings I wouldn't even be able to take her to school. And so I would have to hire that person to walk her to school, maybe even, make sure that she had her breakfast and all that stuff. But I made it work. It's kind of mind-boggling when I think about it now. when they said, okay, we're going to be gone for like a year and you're basically not going to be home. It's like, gotta go. So it was nice though, because, it was very emotional leaving that job. But she called since then. I would come back and do things with her, and it was nice. She's a really nice person. She's a really amazing person, really.
Yeah.
And of course, that completely changed my career. So I'm totally grateful for how much I learned from that gig and how much I realized how much I didn't know.
Yeah.
About that side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing. I didn't even know how to sit in a makeup chair and I don't want to have that done. No. They're actually working with me. This is their job and they're going to do it. And, even my years as a model, I always kind of had a little input on, I don't know if I like that,
Yeah.
But no.
Wow.
Very different.
Yeah. And that's, again, kind of this seems to be the theme today, that there are so many lessons that we learn, just through the experience that these would be valuable things for upcoming musicians to learn. And, when you have people that look at that lifestyle, look at being on the road with, one of the top acts in the world, you go, wow, that's good. That would be so great to be able to do that. And then until you're in the middle of it, and you're realizing, hey, it means I have to be away from my family. It means that I have to give up all these other things, and you have to rehearse, and it's not just crystal and caviar every night.
Yeah, I don't think that ever happened. But and it's those kind of jobs also. You might have a 12-hour music rehearsal. And then you think, oh, thank God, it's finally over. And they say, okay, let's go to the dance studio. And you don't sleep.
Yeah.
You just don't sleep. And then, your chops are all puffy and gross. And you have a TV show tomorrow. And so you've gotten a 30-minute nap, and you're completely swollen. So you're icing your face. There's so much stuff that people really don't realize that, even if it's 2 minutes on the TV, you have no idea what goes into that 2 minutes. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah. Well, but that's the thing, whether it's that or even just when you think about skill, people look at, what you can do as a player or what, someone can do as an athlete or something like that. And they look at it and they go, well, I wish I could do that. And it's like, well, are you willing to pay the price that it takes to be able to do that? Because everything takes work.
Yes.
So that's cool. I want to ask you though about this Ninja Princess thing. I'm sorry, this is completely perplexing me. So how did you come up with the Ninja Princess moniker?
I didn't.
It was bestowed on you?
Completely organic, yes. And this was, let's see. I'm trying to remember what era of his life. So my daughter was very, very young. She was preschool. And I went on a little tour, like a very little tour with a blues band. And that's actually the band that I learned to play trombone in because they wanted me to switch back and forth and whatever. So it was fun. And I got on the bus. And let's see. Yeah, the bass player looks at me, T.M. Stevens, and he says, oh, we got a real life Ninja Princess on board. And that was it. That was the only thing. And the entire band thought it was hilarious. And so every gig, every night that we did, and they were like, and introducing the Ninja Princess. And that was it. It was over. It was like, oh, this is me.
And there you go.
So yeah, it just happened.
Those are the best ones sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but I want to talk to you about your advocacy. You have a lot of things that you're very passionate about and are advocating for a lot of things. Obviously, one of which being women musicians. It's a big thing for you. But there's some other stuff going on. So let's talk about Kiku the Advocate a little bit.
Okay.
So what are your passions and why are those topics so important to you?
Well, I mean, I guess sometimes we things come into our lives that we don't want, and we realize how alone we feel. So one of the big things that I try to help the world out with, and hopefully it's doing something, is cancer. And I was diagnosed almost 9 years ago. So here I am. And it's this ongoing, and I don't use the word battle. I don't like the whole like, oh, you're going to kick its ass because it doesn't have one. Or you're going to beat this thing because, what is the cure exactly? So, I mean, I'm stuck with this, and this is a part of my life, and I know that a lot of other people are stuck with it too. But when I was diagnosed, and my mother actually died from cancer, and she had literally just turned 50 when she passed away. So, it's kind of a weird thing because at the time that I was diagnosed, even though I lived with my mother for 10 years while she was sick, and I took care of a lot of stuff and all that, but I was a kid. So as an adult, I wasn't very close to a lot of people that had the disease, and most of them were pretty quiet about it. And sometimes it was because they knew my history with it and my mother, and also my mother's sister and my uncle, and it goes on and on. But I think sometimes too, people just don't like to talk about it, and that's really an old school mentality. And I don't think it's a good idea. However, ironically, I didn't talk about it for about 9 months into my diagnosis. But for me, it was different. I was dying to talk about it, and literally, whoops. But I didn't because I know the business well enough that I had just started playing for Gloria Gaynor. I think I did one gig for her, and then I was diagnosed. I mean, of course it's ironic with I Will Survive.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't know them well enough to say, hey, by the way, I got cancer. It's cool, right? So, but also, it wasn't just that gig. It's like, I had all these TV shows that I was booked to do. I was, going to play at the White House for the first time. I was like, oh my God, what if people hear that I'm sick, and automatically people will start to write you off.
Right.
Especially in the music world for different reasons. It might be because they're not sure. And, people hear, oh, you were diagnosed with cancer. That means you're going to be going through all this stuff, and your hair is going to fall out, and you're going to be throwing up all the time. I mean, there's all these stereotypes of having cancer. And, another reason why I kept my mouth shut was other trumpet players. And as much as I love our community is very hungry. And I have heard so many stories from different people on every instrument that when it was discovered that something was, quote, wrong with them, and I'm not gonna do the air quotes, but you could imagine them, because air quotes are so yesterday. But the people will go for the job.
Yeah.
Oh, I know who the MD is on that, and I'm just gonna drop a casual hi, how you doing, and get myself in their radar. So there were a lot of reasons why I didn't talk about it for that long, and it's sad to me, because I got through so much stuff. The last day of radiation, I looked like a burn victim. I had no skin left. I was purple. Everything hurt. I had to, ride with somebody in a car for 3 hours, do like an 8 hour recording session, and then ride back. And I'm sweating the whole time, and it's stinging, and everything hurts. And I've got all this gauze in my purse, and this stuff that I have to put on my burns. And I'm like, they must think that I've got some GI problem today because I keep going to the bathroom,
Right.
but I'm cleaning my wounds. And then I've got this like Ziploc thing so that I'm not leaving all of these bloody gauze pieces all over the bathroom, because I don't want to get found out that I have cancer and that I finished radiation this morning at 7:00. So, it's such a weird, but I think I just completely went off on some tangent about it. But yes, I like to be out there for the community, and try to help people through things. And I'm never one to say, well, you should do this because I did that, blah blah blah. And a lot of people that I've become very good friends with, who some of them are still alive and many of them are not. We did completely different methods of treatments, and never did I ever say, you know what, you should do what I'm doing because I'm doing better than you are.
Yeah.
I think that's the worst thing you can do to someone. I get a lot of unsolicited advice myself from people. I'm like, okay, thanks, but I'm good. I will definitely ask if I have questions. And that's usually, when people do reach out to me and they say, hey, what was your personal experience with this treatment? Or did you do this? Was this offered to you? Did you accept it, or did you refuse it? Did you ever fire an oncologist? And yes, I did. I've fired 2. So, it's interesting because you're very alone when you're diagnosed with something like cancer, or you feel alone. And then this doctor, who is supposed to know everything, doesn't actually know everything.
Right.
And they don't know you, and they don't know how you feel and what your life is about and what's important to you. And so, it's funny because people think of doctors as some godlike figure a lot of times. Right. And it's like, but, my husband pointed out to me one day when I was like, I can't believe this doctor's telling me to do this crap and they won't listen to me. He says, doctors are practicing medicine. They're not experts because you can't be, because it's evolving, and you practice, you try things, you do what a musician does. Oh, let me try it this way. Okay, never mind. That didn't work out for me, but I'll try it another way. And you practice until you get it. And so luckily my new oncologist, well, he's not even new anymore, it's been years. He listens to everything I say, and he's like, you're the expert in you. So, go for it.
Well, and I think that a couple of important points to me from what you're saying. One is, you are ultimately your best advocate, and you're your best physician, you're your best teacher, you're your best whatever, because everything eventually comes down to you and what works for you and how you process things and how you work through things. So, I think that sometimes we put too much responsibility and hope in others when the best place to put it is square on your own shoulders. But that takes strength, and it takes a personal accountability. And it may not be a situation that you wanted, it may not be something that you would hope for or wish for. And it may not be anything that you did or didn't do that created that situation. It just is what it is. But you do have the ability to choose how you're going to deal with it. And that attitude, that applies to everything.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing that you're saying about talking about things, and I've run into this myself, and other people I've talked to about this. Sometimes I don't like to talk about things, not because I'm afraid of talking about them, but because I just don't want to give it power. It's like I don't want to start fixating, and I don't want to start identifying myself. And for years, I didn't talk a whole lot about my personal dealings with cancer, And then I had a lot of other people that were dealing with the same kind of cancer I had and going or other kinds and dealing with some of the kind of complications that I had to deal with. And it's like, okay, well, look, maybe I'll share my story, and if it helps somebody, then it helps somebody.
Yeah.
But it's kind of finding that balance where I don't always be walking around with the sticker and the ribbon on my shirt and saying I'm
Oh,
Cancer
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not afraid of it. It's part of who I am. From that moment of that diagnosis to the day that I die, it's going to be a part of who I am, part of my life story. So it's learning to embrace it and to use it as a tool, as momentum for me to reach my higher self. So
Yep. That's
there's that.
it. That's it. It's like you now have a permanent roommate.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
that
know.
sometimes just stays quiet, and then you're just waiting for them to rear their ugly head. So
Yeah.
and
Yeah. I just went for a huge scan last week, like where they inject all the radioactive stuff and ugh, and so it happens, and I'm going for another one next week
yeah,
or this week. Oh God, I don't even know. But I mean, there's always something going on.
yeah,
There's never a moment where I say, oh, it's not really part of my life anymore, because it always is. And every time I get a headache, I'm like, oh no, I have brain cancer now. This is terrible. Everything that happens, it's like your hip hurts.
yeah,
Like, oh my God, it finally metastasized to my hip. This is terrible. And that's actually why I have all these appointments, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm in so much pain. Luckily, the last scan came out okay. So, but it's never just like, oh man, I got a headache today.
yeah,
It's like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Like now. So it's just weird. But, at the same time, when you realize that it's kind of your little the buddy system when you're little, and you go swimming and you call out your number, so that's your buddy now.
yeah,
And so I'm here, you're here, all right, just keep calm for a while. I don't want to hear from you for a while. Just zip it so I can do some other things.
yeah,
And you learn to live with it. And I mean, it's gotten to the point where I'm not really afraid of dying. I'm okay with it. Like it's going to happen to everybody. So of course it's going to happen to me. I just might have a little more insight as to how. And it actually, it's kind of calming, because it's like, okay, let me, I update my will once in a while, and I make sure that I don't accumulate too much stuff. I've been like, I give things away. I'm just like, I don't need this, and I don't think my family wants this when I'm gone. I don't think that they want to clean up all this stuff. So let me just, and my neighbor does the same thing, and she's 86. She's like a mother to us. And, we'll go over there. Oh, honey, you like this? Here, take it. What am I going to do? My kids are going to throw everything out. I'm like, this totally makes sense. And I'm doing it, at a much younger age, but that's okay, because, I don't want to leave a mess.
yeah,
I want to leave something nice, and I don't want it to be like, oh my God, I have to bag all this stuff up and figure out what's what. No, that
yeah.
sucks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it's been a process of, I'm not afraid to die, but I'm more afraid of not living.
That's a big one, and it's hard right now, right?
Yeah, but
We're all trapped.
yeah, but that's kind of the same thing as I see that with the pandemic, is that there are a lot of great lessons that we could be learning from this.
Yes.
If washing your hands and maintaining a level of social distancing is good now, it's probably a good thing in general. You don't
Yeah.
need to spread your germs to everybody. So, just common sense stuff, taking care of yourself, spending more time with the people that you really care about, staying in touch with people, all these things that we're learning from right now. My fear is, people talk about, the new normal and how they just want things to go back to the way it was. Like, the way it was really kind of sucked,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. it's very interesting because, my daughter, she's been doing college from home now, and my husband, of course, he's a musician, and we never saw each other. And first of all, it's a miracle that we haven't killed each other, I think. Because literally I'd be on the road so much and he'd be out until 4 a.m, doing his gigs and stuff. And so now we're all trapped at home together.
Right.
And, and it's been nice because we've been able to work through things that, we wouldn't have otherwise. Because, every time I would come home from the road, be like, oh, hey, I remember you, what's going on? We know what's going on now. We've gotten closer to our daughter. She's really been blossoming. She loves the whole lockdown. She's an introvert. I mean, I am too, so we're doing fine. But I just missed the gigs. But
there is that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but we're figuring out how we all cook like crazy. So we've been doing a lot of cooking. My daughter just made the best vodka sauce that I've ever tasted in my entire life.
How many bottles of vodka did she use?
Whoo, maybe could have used a little more, but yeah, I was actually surprised because she's tasting it. She's like, "Oh, it needs more." I was like, "Wow, okay, go girl." Yeah, she's pouring in the heavy cream, like, "No, it needs more of that," and it was ridiculously good. But we've been doing so much, improving so many different parts of our lives, including just, maintaining our home and making it warmer and making it more inviting. And, just there's so many things that you can do now that, once you're able to be in the world again, you're not going to have that time.
Yeah.
Because you have to work.
That is true. That is absolutely true. Now, I want to ask you a question, and I really, in a way, I kind of hate to ask this question because I think it's the stupidest question in the world. But
what, mouthpiece?
No, I'll get to that in a minute. Just don't jump ahead of me. Don't jump ahead of me. But what advice would you give to other female trumpet players out there that are trying to establish their career? And the reason I hate asking that question is because that's a question that shouldn't have to be asked.
Right.
It shouldn't have to be prefaced with what would you say to a woman trumpet player. It should just be, a trumpet player. But we know that that all of my female friends out there, that you're dealing with things that guys just don't have to deal with. So, as someone who has made it in the business, what are the things that you would want your sister trumpet players to really take to heart?
Well, I mean, take no shit.
Number one.
I mean, well, people, it's very interesting. I think as I get older, and as my resume grows, and gosh, I hope it continues to grow at some point. But right now we're all in a holding pattern. I think that as people get to know me more, or are familiar with me at first, I don't walk into as much BS as I used to. But it still happens. It still happens where, and my husband, sometimes we'll do gigs together, and we never display like, hey, we're a couple, because why? It's my husband. That's stupid. But we're also both professionals, and I never want to, make it look like it's a thing, like you have to hire us both together. We barely work together. We like it, but we barely work together. And so he'll oftentimes, walk in behind me and just observe what happens to me if people don't know me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty amazing. So, between getting looks from people, getting checked out, being talked down to, people are really not smart when it comes to approaching a situation that they're not used to. So they see a woman with a trumpet and they're immediately confused. I've been asked, "Oh, are you singing with us today?" I'm like, "Oh, I wouldn't have brought my trumpet then, but cool. Does it pay more? Like, why are you offering me this?" And, and it's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
but it's also not, because, if I tell someone I'm a musician and they see that I'm an Asian woman, they assume I play the piano or the violin. I must be great at math. There's a whole bunch of things that people will assume just by looking at someone.
Right.
So I would just say, just always do your best. If someone does talk down to you, and feel free to educate them in the friendliest way you can, because as we've learned or have not learned from all of the political craziness going on, there's a lot of yelling. And the second you start yelling at somebody who doesn't agree with you or doesn't understand you or doesn't see your point of view, that person is never going to agree with you.
Right.
The person is not going to listen to you. They're not. You cannot discuss when you're yelling, or when you're saying you're so stupid. How can you not see that I'm a trumpet player? You can't. You just can't say that. So the same goes true with this. And the thing about music is that there are so many musicians, but it's also such a small world that you're going to see people again and again. You're going to see them 20 years later, and and let's hope that you were kind when you first saw them, no matter what they said to you. Now, being kind doesn't mean letting someone grab you and no.
Right.
You really, to be a female trumpet player, and I think it's sad at this point that we're still doing this, because when I was growing up, I was a unicorn. And there were others, but boy, not a lot, and not a lot that stuck with it. And, partially because people say, oh, but I don't understand, you're a girl. That's dumb. Aren't you going to be a housewife? And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people thought I would end up being a housewife.
Yeah.
It's really about letting people know, no, this is actually the situation. And, I hope I can kind of change your mind about what you're thinking right now. I once was playing in a house band, and there were, a lot of acts, and a well-known singer came on stage and kind of looked at the house band and then looked at me, and he said, oh, there's a really tricky passage in blah, blah, blah. I hope you can handle it. I was like, so I turned the music and I look at it. I was like, wait, this part here? And I just nailed it. And thank God I nailed it, because that could have been really embarrassing. But he put me on the spot. I was like, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Really? You're going to point to the one girl in the band and say, I hope you can handle this. Why are you looking at me? Why aren't you asking anybody else in the band? Oh, because they're guys? Mm-hmm. And it was very obvious that was the case. It wasn't because it was actually, we all had tricky music in there.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't speak to me the rest of the night, but I kept smiling, and I was like, hey, it was really great working with you. Blah, blah. I think we even took a picture together, and, whatever. But there are a lot of assumptions that are made, oh, but you're so sweet. There's no way you can play this really loud, or blah, 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 Prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Just prove them wrong. That's the best thing that you can do is to be kind, but not be stepped on, not be a pushover. Do your best, which everyone should be doing their best. But I do know that I know plenty of musicians that don't. And they're like, oh God, one of these gigs. Okay, great. How do I get through this thing? And, I'll wear my cheapest shoes, and I'll just iron this part of my shirt that shows, and I can't wait until this is done. And I'm going to eat as much as I can during the break because the food is for, come on, man, just do your job, do it right.
Yeah.
And yes, if there are epic snacks, go for it.
Yeah.
But do your best gig, because I will be at the snack table with you.
Open bar,
Yeah.
baby. That's the way it rolls.
But also, keep yourself in check as far as that stuff goes too.
Yeah.
If you know that you can't play a certain way, if you know that, if you overeat or if you drink too much, whatever you drink, maybe it's not the best time to do it.
Yeah.
Pack a doggy bag. I don't care. Bring your own Tupperware. I've actually said that to someone. So why didn't you bring a Tupperware? He's asking for like a to-go bag. I'm like, just bring a container. You know you do this every gig.
Yeah.
I knew this guy for 2 years. I'm like, come on, you know yourself.
Get a bigger gig bag,
Right, exactly. Just throw it all in there. I don't care.
I got a quad, and all I carry in it is a piccolo trumpet, and the rest of it's
Right,
Tupperware.
right. They had meatloaf.
Yeah.
Look, I got a whole,
There you go.
I mean, yeah, but really, like, know yourself, do your best, figure out your best situation.
Yeah, and that's I can't remember who it was, but someone recently was talking about about white privilege, and
yeah.
saying the difference between the difference between being white and being black in America. It's like the opportunities are there if you're black, but you just have to work twice as hard to get the same level of respect or acknowledgement, things like that. And so there's obviously there's always going to be the racial disparity, there's the gender disparity, and like I said before, I wish I didn't have to have those kind of conversations, but unfortunately we do. Until everybody figures out that we're all dealing with the same shit, just kind of a different shape, if you will. That it all comes down to those same things. It's don't take any crap from people, but be genuine, be nice, be humble, do your best. And especially for those of us who are fortunate enough to be paid money to do something that we would generally do for free.
We're all doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm in this room and I'm going, wow, I'm really sweating up here, and nobody's paying me to do it.
Yeah. So, well, we had such a wonderful conversation. I've got two last things that we need to get through before we wrap up our time together. And the first is to appease all of those gearheads out there that we have to have these conversations. Yeah, no, but I do have some interest in this as well. But this is a segment we call Gear Up. And Gear Up, we just want to talk briefly about what kind of gear you're working on, and then also just kind of get some feedback from you on some ways that people can approach their gear. That's going to be things that they may not have thought about before. So let's just jump into our Gear Up section.
Well, so I here's my brand new horn that I got right before the shutdown. Woo! Look, I already got dents in it.
Purdy.
I only took it out of the house like twice. I already got dents. So I am now playing on an Edwards X13. And the mouthpiece is a Warburton. It's a Kiku Collins top. I've never heard of her, but I was like, I might as well try it. And it's on a KT back bore, and it has the Landris sleeve. It's actually, you know about these, right? The wooden, I forget what the hell they're called. But this is actually the prototype. So none of them look this pretty. So feast your eyes.
Oh man, I was just thinking. I was just because I play a Warburton as well, and it's like mine doesn't look like that. Like, I have to call Terry up. You jerk.
Terry, I got a damaged one. Where's the wooden thing?
Yeah, where's the wooden thing?
This is from Josh Landris, and this, he started making these so many years ago. And he's a great, if people don't know who he is, which I find to be very unbelievable that people don't know who he is. He's the only person that is allowed to touch our instruments, my husband and I combined, with anything, and he can fix everything.
Josh is the man.
Oh my God, I love him. I just did 2 videos. Well, not just. If everything feels like just in this pandemic, but I did 2 videos for his shop for Facebook, and I'm so happy that they're still around and open, because I really need him to fix those dents because they're driving me insane.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the main stuff that I play. I use torpedo bags. Of course, everybody knows torpedo bags. Oh my God.
Love my torpedo bag.
Mine are purple.
I hate you. I want a purple bag.
Steve and I are big fans of each other, and I really didn't think that it would happen. My first torpedo bag is black, of course. It was the classic
Right.
years ago. I mean, they're so much better now. It's amazing, but I still have that original one. And we were talking about cases, and I said, "Man, you should really come out with some purple ones. It's my favorite color." And so now I have purple cases.
Nice.
And I use ultra pure. Actually, my daughter did some graphic design and some original artwork. I don't know if you've seen. I wish I had one in here now. There's a little bag. It's called the Brass Pack. It's
Okay.
a Brat Pack. Of course, I thought of that name. She's too young to know about that.
Yeah.
Now she knows, though. But so she did the graphic design on the bag to his specs, and she hand drew the trumpet. There's a cleaning cloth, there's a polishing cloth, and it's black, and it's gorgeous. And she drew this little trumpet on it. And
Nice.
It's mind-blowing that she did that. But so those guys, and of course I'm, a chop saver addict. I have them everywhere. I was like one of his first artists because I practically eat it. I use so much of it. I love it, but we all use it. So, what else? I don't know.
Well, you got your gear. You got your gear. Speaking of gear, I always try to give this little spin, my own personal spin. Do you see a difference for someone, or would you recommend a different approach to gear for someone who's doing a lot of live shows, such as yourself, doing more stage production, as opposed to if you're doing a lot of club dates or smaller venues? What do you see do you see a necessity for a slightly different gear setup for those two situations?
So I was really good friends with Lou Soloff for a long, long, long time. When I was 15, I met him, and for anyone who knew Lou personally, he would have a minimum of 200 mouthpieces on him at all times, and he would switch mouthpiece for every note. I don't know how he did it, but he would just constantly switch stuff. When I first met him, there was a stack of trumpets up to the ceiling. I was like, "What? Who needs all of this stuff?" So there are people that clearly believe in that. I think that I would just get confused if I had different stuff. Oh, well, this is my TV mouthpiece, and this is my recording mouth. I'm kind of one of those people that thinks, whatever gear fits you, fits you. And so, I'm on commercial gear, which fits every setting that I play in, except for classical church stuff, that kind of stuff. Nobody has ever complained. Like, well, your horn is way too commercial for this. Oh, they keep calling me back. I don't know. Maybe it's because, I wear fun socks. I don't know. But I've never had a complaint, I don't play on any classical gear anymore. And that's how I grew up. And I feel so free. I feel like everything fits me. I never felt like, certain instruments or types of instruments fit me well. Even the cornet, I have a beautiful cornet, and I'm like, it's interesting. It's kind of fun to play, but I don't feel like myself in it. So I use it if there's a gig that calls for that specific vibe. So yeah, I'm really one of those people. You find a setup and you stick to it. I've never been successful in a shallow mouthpiece, and never say never. I'd like to continue to try and pursue something like that. And this is a good time to do that. But, I also, during this break, another thing that I kept quiet was I had seriously major oral surgery. And I'm still going through it. So I had to relearn how to play again. Cancer is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
But I learned how to be a little more efficient. I learned, how to play on plastic teeth. That's a good skill set. And I'm not done with the process, so I'll have to learn again.
Yeah.
when I get the permanent stuff in, but we have bone growing very slowly right now. So I'm kind of waiting, but I haven't stopped anything. I'm just still forging ahead and, just like everything else, just figure it out.
Well, that was a process I was contemplating going through prior to the pandemic, and yeah, I'm still on the fence as to whether I actually am going to do that. But I may have to pick your brain on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, mine was a necessity at this point.
Yeah.
Because literally the last thing I did was I did one of those recordings for Facebook, and I was saying I think, not out loud because I didn't want them to know that anything was wrong, but it was the night before my surgery, and I was like, my teeth are going to literally pop out because they had been moving for years from the treatment, and I had to have it done. It was a necessity. Otherwise, I would have no teeth left.
Yeah. Well, oh my goodness, girl.
I know. It's so exciting, right?
Yeah,
so
it
much
is.
stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Never a dull moment. I cannot. I'm never bored. I will tell you that.
Well, there you go. All right. So we've got one last segment, and this is a rapid fire round, and it's brought to us by my good friends at Robinson's Remedies, Kenny Robinson and Richard. So these are a series of questions that bounce all over the place, and I just need your quickest response
Oh no.
to this. You don't have to think too hard.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So we'll start with the first one. Who's the biggest influence on your life that is not a trumpet player?
My daughter.
All right. What's your favorite book?
The Talent Code.
Love that book.
Did I win? Did I win?
You won. I just had a conversation with Bobby Shue a couple weeks ago
Of
about
course
that.
you did. He's the one that told me to read it.
Yes. And you have to have you gotten the Little Book of Talent?
No.
It's a great compendium to it. I used to give it to people as gifts. It's just a small book with like 50 or 52 little tidbits.
All right. I'm going to look into that.
It's really good. Okay.
Excellent.
Good. All right. What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
Oh man, I like bad movies. Oh my gosh, Sharknado. It's good. I can't lie.
It's so bad that it's good that it's bad. So
Yeah, I like that.
All right. If you weren't a trumpet player, what would you want to be?
A chef.
Good. I'd like to be an eater. What's your favorite drink?
Sparkling water.
Okay. You could have a dinner party and invite any three living people. Any three people in the world can be invited to this party. Who would they be?
Barack Obama, who I've met twice, so I don't know. But I didn't get to talk to him enough. So, Pat Benatar. Wow, she was one of my biggest influences when I was growing up. Oh my gosh, who else? There's so many. There are so many. There's so many. I don't know. Can I just have two?
You can just have two. You're fine.
I can't think of someone else. I've met so many people already.
Well,
weird?
Barack will bring Michelle. So
That's what I'm talking about.
there you go.
She's so sweet. Okay.
All
That's
right.
a good party.
Okay, now you got another three chairs at that table, and you can invite any three people from history, any three people that are no longer with us.
Okay. I'm going to say my mother, because she didn't get to see me grow up. Hope she's proud. Wow. Mel Broyles, because I miss him. He didn't get to see me grow up either. Who else? I'm going to toss Gandhi in there.
Okay.
That'll be interesting talk.
Yeah, be a lot of interesting talk on that.
Yeah.
All right, lacquer plated or raw?
I'm going to have to say lacquer.
Okay, what's your favorite quote?
Wow. What is my favorite? I have so many. And I just actually officiated a wedding recently, and there was a great one by Dr. Seuss that I put in there. It was something about sometimes, sometimes you're so crazy and you find somebody else who's crazy and you end up calling that love. I said that at a wedding, whatever the proper quote was, and they were like, that's amazing. Yeah.
Better than I will not eat them in a car. I will.
Right.
Yeah. All right. You could be, nope, I skipped one. This is a good one. Okay. What's your greatest fear?
Oh, my greatest fear is not being able to play ever again.
Okay. You could be granted one superpower. What would it be?
To cure cancer. Is that a superpower?
That's a superpower.
Okay.
I'll take it as a superpower.
I mean, I guess second would be to fly. So, you got to back up.
Yeah. If you could do both, it would really work out well. So you just fly over.
Yeah, I could just fly everywhere and cure everyone.
Exactly. Cool. All right. What aspect of excuse me, I'm losing myself here. What aspect of trumpet playing do you find to be the most overrated?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say playing super, super loud.
Okay. What aspect of trumpet playing do you find to be the most underrated?
Being to be able to play extremely soft. That worked out.
Yeah. How about that? You could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice about music. What would it be?
It's just music.
And you're able to give yourself one piece of advice about life.
Don't be so afraid of everything.
Okay. And the final question for you today is, what do you want your legacy to be?
Ugh. I don't know about legacy. I just really, I think ever since my diagnosis and all the other fun things that have kind of toppled on me since then, I've just really decided that I want to leave the world a better place than, like every day just try to do something good for other people, even if I don't know them, even if they're not born yet. So yeah, all of that advocacy work and, trying to help people out. And just trying to be a good person.
Oh, well, I think ultimately that's all that any of us really can do. And that's the biggest gift that we can give to future generations is just to make the world a little bit better because we've been here. And you're well on your way to that. So, you
Hope
passed.
so.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Just like that music test you just aced it. So,
yes.
So, Kiku, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And if you want to find out more about some of the things that Kiku's got going on, please check out the show notes. And we have some links to all of her projects and things that she's involved in. So stay in touch, stay on top of things, and hopefully we'll be able to catch you out in public at some point.
Please.
When live music returns, the return of the gigs. So, it's going to happen. There's going to be an explosion of creativity. I really feel it. So,
yeah.
So that's good.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, in closing, as always, all my friends here at the Hang, peace and slide grease. We's out. Hey, thank you so much for hanging with us today. This podcast is all about creating connection through our mutual love for the trumpet life. I hope that you learned a few things about today's guest and had some laughs along the way. Don't forget to give us a review. We love those 5-star ratings. And please share this podcast with your friends. We want to see our hang grow for show. Have a suggestion for a future topic or a guest? Hit me up at thetrumpetgurus@gmail.com. Our opening theme was written and performed by Lexi Signor, and all other music comes courtesy of The Greatest Funeral Ever. So in the words of W.C. Handy, life is like a trumpet. If you don't put anything into it, you don't get anything out. So go out there and let your trumpet sound. And I'll see you at the next hang.